What feels like simple leg fatigue or heaviness is often the first quiet warning. Long before any visible injury appears, the body starts signaling a decline in strength and stability, but it does it subtly enough that most people ignore it. You may notice tiny hesitations in everyday movements. Standing up takes a moment longer, your first step feels less automatic, or your balance isn't as steady as it once was. These small delays are early signs that your muscles and nervous system aren't responding as quickly or efficiently. At the same time, confidence begins to shift in the background. You move a bit more cautiously, even if you don't fully realize it. The change is gradual, almost invisible, until it starts affecting how you walk, stand, and carry yourself. The reason this goes unnoticed is because the body adapts. It compensates just enough to keep you moving, masking the decline. But over time, these small adjustments build up, and what started as a minor signal can quietly turn into a real threat to your independence. Walking is often seen as the gold standard for staying active, but on its own, it's not enough to maintain the strength, balance, and neuromuscular control your body depends on. While it keeps you moving, it doesn't fully challenge the systems responsible for stability and coordination, the very things that protect your independence over time. The issue lies in its repetitive nature. Walking is primarily a forward motion, and because of that, it underengages many of the smaller stabilizing muscles that support your hips, knees, and core. These muscles are critical for balance, posture, and controlled movement, yet they're rarely activated in a meaningful way during a standard walk. This is why many people stay consistent with daily walks and still notice a gradual decline. They're active, but not in a way that trains the full system. Strength may slowly decrease, balance becomes less reliable, and movements that once felt automatic start requiring more effort and attention. True mobility isn't just about staying in motion, it's about activating the right muscles in the right way. Without that targeted engagement, the body maintains movement on the surface, but loses capability underneath. Circulation in the lower body isn't driven by the heart alone. It relies heavily on the muscles in your legs to keep blood moving efficiently. Every time these muscles contract, they act like a pump, pushing blood back upward. When that system isn't actively engaged, circulation slows, and the effects begin to build beneath the surface. Prolonged sitting is one of the biggest disruptors of this process. When the legs remain still for extended periods, the natural pumping mechanism becomes less effective. Blood flow becomes sluggish, fluid can begin to pool, and that familiar sense of stiffness or heaviness starts to set in. Over time, this doesn't just affect comfort, it impacts how well your muscles respond when you finally do move. This is where controlled, intentional activation makes a difference. Simple ankle movements can re-engage the lower leg muscles that often go underused, especially during long periods of inactivity. By restoring that muscular pump, you begin to improve blood return and bring fresh circulation back into the tissues that need it most. When these movements are performed with steady, rhythmic control, they do more than just increase blood flow. They help restore responsiveness in the muscles, reduce that lingering heaviness, and make movement feel smoother and more natural. It's a small shift, but one that directly targets the foundation of how your body supports itself. Over time, consistency is what creates the real change. These aren't dramatic interventions. They're simple, repeatable actions that, when done regularly, begin to restore comfort, improve mobility, and support the system from the ground up. One of the clearest reflections of real-world strength is something most people do every day without thinking: standing up from a seated position. This simple movement requires coordination, balance, and sufficient power from the legs and hips. When that strength begins to decline, it doesn't just make the movement harder, it directly affects independence and increases the risk of instability or falls in everyday life. As leg and hip power decrease, the body often compensates in subtle ways. You might lean forward more than necessary, push off with your hands, or rely on momentum to get upright. While these adjustments make the movement possible, they reduce the amount of actual muscle engagement taking place. Over time, this reinforces the very weakness that caused the compensation in the first place. Rebuilding this capacity starts with improving how the movement is performed. Proper weight shifting, bringing your center of mass forward over your feet, and maintaining good posture alignment allows the right muscles to activate at the right time. This ensures that the legs and hips are doing the work they're designed for, rather than offloading the effort elsewhere. Equally important is how you return to the seated position. Lowering yourself down with control places sustained tension on the muscles, which is far more effective for building strength than simply dropping into the chair. This controlled phase challenges stability, reinforces coordination, and strengthens the muscles through their full range of motion. As strength begins to improve, gradually reducing the use of your arms becomes a key step. Instead of pushing off heavily with your hands, you begin to rely more on your lower body. This shift may feel challenging at first, but it's essential for restoring true functional strength. With consistent practice, these controlled, intentional movements rebuild the capacity needed to move confidently and independently in daily life. The calf muscles are often referred to as the body's second heart because of the vital role they play in circulating blood back toward the upper body. Each time they contract, they help push blood upward against gravity, supporting overall circulation and reducing the strain on the cardiovascular system. When these muscles are active and responsive, they quietly sustain energy, movement, and comfort throughout the day. When the calves become weak or underused, this pumping mechanism loses efficiency. Blood flow slows, and the result is often felt as swelling, fatigue, or a sense of heaviness in the lower legs. Over time, this can also affect stability, as these muscles are essential for controlling small adjustments in balance and posture. Reactivating this system requires more than quick, repetitive movement. Slow, controlled elevation and lowering of the heels ensures that the calf muscles are fully engaged through their entire range. This not only strengthens the muscles, but also improves their ability to assist with circulation, making each contraction more effective. Maintaining that engagement for slightly longer periods builds endurance within the muscle, allowing it to perform its role consistently without tiring quickly. As endurance improves, discomfort in the lower legs begins to decrease, and movement feels lighter and more supported. To build on this foundation, gradually introducing balance challenges, such as performing the movement with less support, further strengthens coordination and stability. This added demand encourages the calves and surrounding muscles to work together more efficiently, reinforcing both circulation and control in a way that carries directly into everyday movement. Movement doesn't break down from weakness alone. Often, it's a coordination issue. When the communication between your brain and muscles becomes less efficient, even simple actions start to feel less controlled and more effortful. The body may still have strength, but without proper timing and synchronization, that strength isn't used effectively. Rebuilding this connection starts with intentional, alternating leg movements. This kind of motion retrains the body's sense of rhythm, teaching muscles to activate in the right sequence and at the right time. It reinforces control rather than speed, helping each step feel more stable and predictable. Slowing these movements down is what makes them powerful. Deliberate, controlled actions strengthen the neural pathways responsible for coordination, essentially reprogramming how your body executes movement. Over time, this leads to smoother, more reliable walking patterns. It also brings attention to imbalances between sides. Most people naturally favor one leg, which can create uneven movement patterns and additional strain. By addressing these side-to-side differences, the body begins to move with greater symmetry and balance. As coordination improves, movement becomes more efficient. Less energy is wasted on compensations, fatigue decreases, and everyday activities start to feel more fluid and natural again. Most everyday movement happens forward and backward, which means side-to-side control is often neglected. Yet in real life, balance is rarely lost in a straight line. It's those unexpected shifts, a quick change in direction or a slight misstep, that demand strong lateral stability to recover safely and stay upright. When the muscles responsible for stabilizing the hips are weak or undertrained, the body becomes more vulnerable in these moments. Even small directional changes can feel less controlled, increasing the likelihood of imbalance or strain. These stabilizers play a key role in keeping the pelvis steady and the lower body aligned during movement. Targeting this area requires controlled lateral leg movements that deliberately engage these often overlooked muscles. By moving side to side with intention, you activate the support system that helps manage weight shifts and maintain balance beyond simple forward motion. Maintaining proper alignment throughout these movements is essential. Without it, the body tends to compensate, shifting stress to the knees or lower back instead of engaging the hips effectively. Over time, these compensations can lead to unnecessary joint strain and reduced efficiency. As hip stability improves, the entire system becomes more controlled and responsive. Movements feel more grounded, balance reactions become quicker, and the risk of falls decreases. It's this lateral strength that fills in a critical gap, making overall mobility more complete and resilient. True mobility isn't built from a single type of exercise. It comes from combining circulation, strength, coordination, and balance into one cohesive system. Each of these elements plays a specific role, but it's their integration that creates movement that is stable, efficient, and reliable in real life. When they work together, the body doesn't just move, it moves with control and purpose. What makes this approach effective is consistency, not intensity. Short, focused routines performed regularly create far greater results than occasional bursts of effort. The body responds best to repeated, intentional input, gradually adapting and reinforcing the patterns that support better movement. Each component strengthens the others. Improved circulation supports muscle function, strength enhances stability, coordination refines control, and balance ties everything together. Instead of training in isolation, this approach builds a system where every movement contributes to overall performance. By integrating these elements into daily routines, the body begins to adapt in a lasting way. Movement becomes more natural, less effortful, and more dependable over time. This consistency is what transforms small actions into meaningful long-term improvements in comfort, stability, and mobility. Inactivity doesn't just affect you in the moment, it carries over into how your body feels at rest. When movement throughout the day is limited, circulation slows and muscles remain underengaged, which often leads to increased stiffness once you finally sit or lie down. What feels like rest can actually become a period where discomfort builds rather than resolves. Without regular muscle activation, the body misses out on the natural pumping and resetting processes that support recovery. This can show up as nighttime discomfort, restlessness, or a sense that your body never fully relaxes. Instead of recovering efficiently, your system stays slightly restricted, making it harder to wake up feeling refreshed. That's why mornings often tell the real story. Stiffness, reduced stability, or a need to warm up before moving comfortably are not random. They're usually the result of repeated patterns of inactivity. When the body isn't regularly challenged during the day, it loses its readiness to move smoothly after periods of rest. Over time, these cycles compound. Each day of limited movement feeds into the next, gradually reducing mobility and responsiveness. Because the changes happen slowly, they're easy to overlook, but they steadily shape how your body performs, both during the day and when it's supposed to recover at night. Long-term independence isn't built through occasional effort. It's the result of small, consistent actions repeated daily. The body responds to what it experiences most often, which means even simple movements, when done regularly, can create meaningful and lasting change. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters, consistently. Focusing on key physical systems like circulation, strength, coordination, and balance produces far greater results than generalized activity alone. When each movement has a clear purpose, the body receives targeted input that directly improves how it functions. This approach avoids wasted effort and ensures that every action contributes to a stronger, more capable system. With consistent, purposeful input, the body begins to adapt in a positive way. Muscles become more responsive, movement feels more controlled, and overall stability improves. These changes don't happen overnight, but they build steadily, reinforcing better patterns and making them feel natural over time. The earlier this process begins, the more powerful it becomes. Addressing small declines before they progress prevents them from compounding into larger limitations. By taking intentional action early and maintaining it daily, you create a foundation that supports long-term mobility, confidence, and independence. Left unaddressed, small declines in strength and balance don't stay small. They gradually limit how easily and confidently you move, turning once simple actions into tasks that require more effort and caution. What begins as a subtle shift can slowly reshape your daily experience, reducing both mobility and confidence over time. As this progression continues, everyday activities start to feel more demanding. Standing, walking, or changing direction may require greater focus, and stability becomes less reliable. The body begins to work harder for the same outcomes, increasing fatigue and making movement feel less natural and more controlled by limitation than by choice. The direction of this trend, however, is not fixed. With consistent, targeted training, these patterns can be reversed. Strength can be rebuilt, balance can be restored, and the body can regain the ability to move with efficiency and control. What once felt like decline can shift into steady improvement with the right approach applied consistently. As physical control improves, so does overall quality of life. Movement becomes easier, confidence returns, and independence is reinforced in a meaningful way. Instead of adapting to limitations, the body begins to operate from a place of capability, supporting a more active, stable, and self-directed life. Maintaining long-term mobility starts with a clear understanding of what your body needs right now. Without that awareness, it's easy to rely on habits that feel productive but don't actually address the areas that matter most. When you recognize where strength, stability, or control may be lacking, you can begin to adapt in a way that directly supports better movement and resilience. The habits you build today shape how your body performs in the future. Mobility isn't something that suddenly declines. It reflects patterns that have been repeated over time. By taking a proactive approach and choosing movements that serve a specific purpose, you create a path that leads towards sustained capability rather than gradual limitation. Functional strength and stability are not lost permanently. They can be maintained and improved with the right approach. When movement is intentional and targeted, the body responds by reinforcing the systems that keep you steady, coordinated, and strong. This isn't about intensity or extremes. It's about consistency and precision. Over time, daily movement becomes more than just activity. It becomes a tool for preserving independence. Each intentional action supports your ability to move with confidence, handle everyday tasks with ease, and maintain control over how you live your life. Now, take a moment to reflect on this. What is one small action you can start today to improve your strength, stability, or movement? It doesn't have to be complex or time-consuming. The key is simply starting with intention. Share your answer in the comments and be part of a community that's actively choosing to move better, feel stronger, and stay independent.